Eki Nwokoro is the principal consultant of an indigenous educational support and advocacy group, Gilead Resource Center. Her book, How to Prevent Child Sexual Abuse, will be the focus of our book chat this morning. And here's the book here, How to Prevent Child Sexual Abuse, a handbook for parents, guardians, and caregivers by Eki Nwokoro. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start from the beginning. Why did you feel that there was a need to put a book like this together and have parents and caregivers read it?
Okay, so the driving force has been working in the field for about 7 years, going around schools and organizations, taking a campaign. There are lots of questions, and the fact that there's a dearth of information out there. Parents are not aware, guardians, caregivers, they are not aware what is happening. They don't even know what to do if there is a case of child sexual abuse, what's it all about, the signs to watch out for, what to do in case of an eventuality. So that's actually what's motivated us to put the book together, so that the books can also reach where we cannot reach. Because the thing is that child sexual abuse is a global virus. It's rampaging everywhere, and there are places we cannot reach, but the books can get there.
That's really good. Now, in the book, you went through several processes. You did the definitions of what child sexual abuse is and what parents can do and how to look out for signs and all of that. But for people who, it feels like this is something that is going on more rampantly now, or is it because of social media and the fact that we have more information that we're hearing about it?
Well, I think it's both. It's more rampant, and the fact that there's social media, So initially, there've been this stigmatization. Nobody wanted to talk about it, the fact that it's happening. But these days, because there's a law now, Lagos State, for example, is really making moves to prosecute child sexual offenders. And so this is making people come forth to talk about it. So it's rampant, and the social media is also making it more visible, to what's happening.
I'm glad that you mentioned the law, because that's one of the things that you talked about in this book, the Child's Right Act, and the fact that you don't have to be quiet. If something has happened,
that's true,
you can come forward and have such people prosecuted. But let's talk about the book itself and how you have structured it for people to be able to learn. So tell us the content specifically and what people can gain when they pick up a copy of the book. Okay,
so first of all, we'll start by, we have a definition. We want to explain what child sexual abuse is all about. And then, because there's a misconception, some people think it's all about, there's a penetration when the child is probably sexually molested, actual sex. But it's much more than that. So child sexual abuse can either be contact or non-contact. So the non-contact aspects could be the child being shown pornography. It could be the child just being spoken to on the phone, obscene phone calls. So you have people calling people on the phone and saying dirty things on the phone. So that's a form of child sexual abuse. And then it could also be contact. Contact says that the child is touched. The child is anything is happening, but it involves touching the child. Right. So those are the things that has been taken care of. We've also talked about the fact that the child perpetrators, people that do these things, they don't wear a badge per se. It's not written on the faces. It could be anybody. It could be the father of the child, it could be the mother, it could be the aunt, uncle, it could be a pastor, an imam, anybody, could be a perpetrator of child sexual abuse. And that also has been outlined so that parents, guardians, and caregivers can be aware and then be more at alert to know what to do. And then we've talked about the fact that there are signs to watch out for. There are physical signs to watch out for. There are physiological signs you can see in a child. So if a child is probably not working well, a child who's been doing well in school, suddenly not performing as much as he or she used to do, that could be a sign. A child who was very active before, suddenly becoming, withdrawn. A child who probably had stopped to bedwet, for example, suddenly starts bedwetting.
So it's not. It
could be a sign to watch out for. And then, so we've talked about that. We've talked about the fact that there are real life stories, in the book. The things we've done is just to change the names. We have several real life stories. And then this goes to show that if, for example, a parent has a child who's been sexually abused, you're not alone, and then it's not your fault. There's not the fault of the child that he or she has been abused. It's not the fault of the parents that your child has been abused. And then there's a way forward. So these are things that have been outlined in the books. And then it's important for parents to be informed, because the truth is, if you're not informed, you should be deformed.
Exactly.
So that's the essence of the book.
Now let's talk about the fact that, I like the fact that you mentioned not just parents, but you mentioned caregivers as well. So let's talk about the caregiver. So the caregivers would be maybe uncles, aunts, and probably maybe grandparents that the children are living with, right?
Yes, and the caregivers could also be the, when you drop a child off at school, the teachers at school, the nannies, anybody that has anything to do with the child is a caregiver. And when you talk about parents, it's not just about the fact that you birthed the child. You know, for every adult, any child you come in contact with happens to be your child. Because, I mean, it's a popular parlance that says that it takes a community to raise a child. So you don't know where your child is going to be tomorrow. And then so every child that comes your way, we ourselves as adults are supposed to take care of that child as if they were our own. So for every caregiver, any person that has anything to do with any child in school, at work, at home, anywhere, has, you know, can be termed as a caregiver and must take precautions about child sexual abuse.
So let's talk about tradition and, of course, religion as well, because these are like two things that people anchor their lives and, you know, their various thoughts about. So how do you move from, because, you know, sometimes, you know, society has stigmatization, maybe regarding the child or the parent. And you're talking about, just now you were saying about parents that sometimes parents could feel like it's their fault, or I should have spent more time with the child. Maybe that's why the child has been abused. So how do you balance the knowledge in this book with religion on one hand and tradition on the other?
You know, exactly. That's why information is power. And not just information, applied knowledge and information is power. So that, because we realize that a lot of times the parents themselves who have kids that have been sexually abused, they think it's their fault, but really it's not their fault. And then tradition also has, in Nigeria, for example, I've met a case of a father, I think it was sometime last year, who had sexually abused his kids, about 4 of them. And when we tried to pick up the case, the mother, because of tradition, now saying, I don't want to be the one to send my husband to jail. I mean, it can't be done.
I think I heard that story.
Yes, you know, so she was one blocking, you know, not wanting us to go ahead, you know, to prosecute. But the truth is that because fathers these days abuse their children, and then it's not hidden anymore. Do you understand? It's not hidden anymore. It's only in this part of the country that people are not talking about it. I think it was 2016. There was a case of Bill Cosby, we all know about him, who had sexually assaulted women far back as 1960.
30 years ago.
Do you understand? So the time has come for us in Nigeria to really be open about it, to be able to talk about it.
And tell the truth.
And tell the truth as it is, you know. And it's nothing to hide, because the more you talk about it, you're able to help another child from being sexually abused. And that's the whole idea why we come to talk about this thing. I tell people sometimes that I am a survivor of child sexual abuse. And then why do I say that? It's not because I want to talk about it, but it's just because I know in telling my story, I can help another child. I can stop another child from being sexually abused. So the time has come for us to please put away tradition, put away religion, because the truth is, even in churches, there are cases we've handled where the pastors, the prayer warriors, the choir masters are the ones abusing the children under their care. So this thing is real.
Yeah. So let's talk about, one of the things that you talked about was not just about in a case where the child has already been sexually abused. You talked about steps that you can take to prevent it, right? Because that's actually what the book is about preventing child sexual abuse. So can you just take us through some of these steps? Not just the things to look out for when it has already happened, but steps to even prevent it in the first place.
So first of all, like I said, information is power, information is key. So when you get informed about the fact that child sexual abuse is real, that's a step to preventing it. Secondly, as parents, guardians and caregivers, a time has come for us to be more involved in the lives of our kids. The time has come for us to be more deliberate, you know, parenting our kids. Deliberate, inclusive parenting. That's the key word, inclusive parenting. So there's, as much as, yes, we're so busy, especially in Lagos State, we are looking for what to eat and all that. Parents, guardians, and caregivers must make deliberate effort to be there for their kids. You know, in this time of social media, smartphones, and the likes, you see a parent coming back from work, and your daughter, your son is trying to talk to you, you know, and you're like, you're busy, is there a phone call is coming in, you're trying to send a text message. We need to make deliberate effort. So at that point in time, when you come back from work, at least 1 hour, set your phone aside and give time to your child. And then we need to get to a point where we believe our children. Some of us, we don't believe. So a child comes to you and discloses, oh, Mommy, something is happening to me. And you think, oh, don't say that. You know, so we need to believe, we need to be friends with our kids. Our children will have to trust us, you know, to be able to
give us information.
Yeah, give us information. And then when they talk to you, please believe them. Please believe them over every other person. Believe your children.
Wow.
When your children feel that, you know, they feel that you believe them, they can talk to you. They can, you know, come to you. But if they feel, oh, that he doesn't even care or he doesn't believe me, they would go outside. And then we should be open with our kids. You know, we should be friends with them, open up with them and chat with them. Also, the people that come to take care of our kids, we should ensure that we have a background check for them. So who are we leaving our kids with? For example, who baits your 5-year-old child? Who drops your child in school? Your driver, your caregiver? How much of those people do you know? These are things that are very important.
Well, I have to stop you right there because we don't have much time. There's a lot to talk about. Many other questions that I wanted to ask. But the book is How to Prevent Child Sexual Abuse, a handbook for parents, guardians, and caregivers. Really, really important book that all parents need to have. It's by Eki Nwokoro. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Hopefully we'll have you sometime again in future.